So let me read the headline from the New York Times, first of all. Uganda president and his son are accused of crimes against humanity.
Oh,
This is one of the most serious headlines I've seen in the New York Times in a very long time. The New York Times has often been too soft on Field Marshal Museveni, but this is as explicit and as hard a headline that you can expect to get in a publication like the New York Times, which is the establishment media in the West. And when the New York Times starts reporting on an African dictator being accused of crimes against humanity and uses that kind of headline, that means the sun, S-U-N, not S-O-N, the sun is beginning to set on that particular dictator. It reminds me of when they started writing about Mobutu in a certain way after he had been sustained by the United States for 37 years in power. The dictator in Uganda has also been sustained for 37 years in power. Now the language in the establishment media is changing in terms of the coverage, and that could suggest that the sands are shifting for this dictator. Let's look at the headline from The Guardian. Ugandan president and son accused of sponsoring violence in ICC testimony. It's a good headline. It's not as strong as the New York Times, but it's still good. And obviously both are referring to the complaints that have been formally filed by the lawyer representing the many victims of atrocities in Uganda. And one of the most well-known victims, of course, is Kakwenza Rukira Bashaija, the writer, whom I hope you will also invite to have him speak on this major news report, because he's also quoted in the New York Times article. So before I discuss the elements of this article, one issue which to me is very important. Have you tweeted today concerning the tyranny and atrocities in Uganda? Have you tweeted this week? Our struggle is a non-stop struggle. We have the luxury, particularly us outside Uganda, of being in a position to engage elected officials in the countries where we reside. And one very effective way to engage them is by tweeting. If you cannot go to physical protest, even if you can go to physical protest, combine the two. They're very effective. If you tweet and you tag the appropriate officials, they will see it and they will not be able to ignore. So now here's my suggestions. Capture a screenshot of both headlines, the one in the New York Times and the one from The Guardian, and tweet those on a regular basis. And when you tweet, make sure that you tag the appropriate officials. So for example, the International Criminal Court, we cannot afford to let them forget these headlines. It is up to us to press them and make sure that the investigation is carried out and that these two dictators, co-killers, are indicted: Field Marshal Museveni and General Kainerugaba. So when you tweet to the International Criminal Court, you must say, Prosecutor Karim, his first name is Karim, his last name is Khan, you indicted President Putin in record time. The suffering of the people of Uganda are no less painful than anyone else's suffering. That is an example of what you should say to him. You can come up with your own comments, but make sure that we do not want to be treated like second-class citizens of the world. And of course, his Twitter handle is Karim Khan, so it's at Karim Khan QC, Karimkhan QC, Karim Khan. And also the International Criminal Court at INTLCRIMCOURT. You then should tweet the same screenshots to the President of the United States and the Secretary of State and ask them, how can you allow billions of dollars in US taxpayer money and US weapons to go to these killers? And the Twitter handle for the President of the United States is at POTUS, POTUS, which stands for President of the United States. And the Secretary Blinken's Twitter handle is at Sec Blinken, so at SEC BLINKEN. You should also tweet those same screenshots to the following 3 leaders of Congress. So tweet to Senator Menendez at Senator Menendez, SENATORMENENDEZ. The second person you should also tag is at Leader McConnell. This is Mitch McConnell. He's the Republican leader in the Senate. At LEADERMCCONNELL. And then also at Speaker McCarthy, who is Mitch McCarthy, and he's the Republican House leader of the House of Representatives. At Speaker McCarthy, at SPEAKERMCCARTHY. Sisters and brothers, during the liberation struggle against colonialism, many of our ancestors had to go to the bush, giving up their normal lives, sacrifice in the interest of liberating the African continent. So we had in Mozambique the MPLA, we have the FNL in Algeria, we had the Kenya Land and Freedom Army, KFLA in Kenya. The British demonized them as Mau Mau, but their true name was Kenya Land and Freedom Army. We had SWAPO in South Africa. We had the ANC. We had the PAIGC in Guinea-Bissau. We had Frelimo, of course, in Mozambique, and many others. But these were some of the key liberation armies. And why am I bringing this up? In the 21st century, tweeting is almost the equivalent of going to the bush. So they made a significant struggle. We can tweet from our office, from our bedrooms, from the streets, from our cars, from the bus, from the train, while sitting in the park. That is the very least that we should be able to do. That is hardly a sacrifice. So I urge you, please do your part. Tweet on a daily basis. It is up to us to make sure that these headlines pay off and that there's no going back for these co-dictators, General Yoweri Museveni and General Muhoozi. But since Museveni is senior to Muhoozi, let's refer to him as Field Marshal from now on. All right, so I wanted to get that out of the way because to me that is the most important message I can pass on today. In terms of the allegations in the ICC complaint by the lawyer, Bruce Afran, who is a human rights and civil rights lawyer here in the United States, the details are horrific, as many of us know. They're not shocking. They've been ongoing in Uganda for a long time. Electric shocks, people having their teeth forcefully removed, people having their nails removed, people having their genitals crushed. In the case of Kakwenza, you saw the scars on his back from the whipping and the skin being peeled off with pliers, sexual assaults, the most horrific abuses, waterboarding. And then, of course, many have been killed. So there's no need for me to go into the details that are in this complaint. The most important thing for us is to make sure that we push this complaint, we push these headlines. When you go to any demonstration, make sure you blow up the screenshot from the New York Times headline and the Guardian headline. Big signs, big posters should be made of those blown up screenshots. And that will also be your contribution to the liberation struggle. Also, when we tweet, another tweet should go to the IMF and World Bank. How can you provide billions of dollars to these two killers? And when you send the tweet, make sure you have those screenshots as well from the New York Times article and from the Guardian. And the World Bank Twitter handle is @WorldBank, @WORLDBANK. And for the IMF is @IMF News. So it's @IMFNEWS. So I wanted to make my remarks very brief. I'm just going through some of the notes I prepared as I was getting ready for these short comments. I want to make sure that I did not leave out anything that I think is critical. You can also, of course, go to my own Twitter feed, @AliMahdi, and you can see some of my own tweets. I tweet every day. I may miss a day. You know, in 1 week I may miss one day sometimes because, you know, I'm caught up like maybe preparing lessons or working on some other projects. But on a weekly basis, I try to make sure I tweet at least 4 or 5 times, even 6 times if I don't do it on a daily basis. So that is why I started off by talking about the importance of us engaging in the struggle and tweeting. All right, so there's one other issue that I want to talk about before I run out of my allotted time. And that is the issue of diverting attention. The dictator has a PhD. Field Marshal Museveni has a PhD in lying, in stealing elections, in killing, in torture, but most of all, in diverting attention. So he always does that. Let me give you some recent examples. When he was facing a lot of pressure after the tragedy of Ugandan soldiers being killed in Somalia by Shabaab, what did he do? He signed the anti-LGBTQ law in Uganda. And immediately that became worldwide news. Nothing else about the tragedy in Somalia, which would raise questions. What is Uganda doing in Somalia? Why is this open-ended operation? How could troops have been so carelessly deployed that so many of them could have been killed? With the regime itself saying more than 50 and Al-Shabaab saying more than 130. You know, and you can never know the real number because the dictator is such a pathological liar. But nonetheless, he changed the news cycle by starting to yell, oh, kill the gays, kill the gays. And he knew that would divert news. And then shortly after that, what happened? The massacre of students in Kasese. I'll be very honest with you. I don't believe anything from this dictator. He's a liar until proven otherwise. So the timing of the killing of all these students, to me, was a bit too suspicious. I think the jury is still out. I need more information on that tragedy. And now the most recent incident. The news of the ICC complaint. What did he do this week? Just yesterday, he tried to divert attention again by trying to talk about the ADF, saying former President Joseph Kabila harbored the ADF in Congo, and that's why they've become such a problem now. Trying to ignore the major news of the ICC, right, by trying to divert attention. But I'm happy to say the only major media that picked it up was Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera fell for the propaganda. I think the others are learning their lessons now. After Kasese, when the BBC, for example, had a headline saying, ADF, ISIS-linked group attacked students, without any attribution. And of course, I was very critical of that headline, and I tweeted it. I said, you know, it could have been as well just written by Field Marshal Museveni himself. So I think they're learning their lessons, becoming a little more critical, although Al Jazeera fell for the trap this time. So what did I do? I did some research, and I found a headline from the New Vision from about 10 years ago, and I tweeted it, so you can go to my page at Alimadi. 10 years ago, the headline was, Museveni praises Kabila for fighting ADF. The same Kabila that is accusing just yesterday of harboring the ADF. So he's such a liar that he forgets his lies, you see? So I tweeted and I said, major media, all you have to do is Google and you'll be able to expose this guy's lies. So, but I am a bit fearful, and I'll tell you why. Because now that he's talking about ADF again, after the ICC headline, it means something terrible could happen in Uganda. And he's going to use the ADF as a scapegoat again. I think he uses the ADF the way he used to use the LRA, Lord's Resistance Army, with Joseph Kony, to cover up for his own atrocities in the northern part of Uganda. I think there could be a similar pattern that is ongoing now. So I urge fellow Ugandans, sisters and brothers, beware. Beware. People that go out to like clubs, I think even students at schools must be alert, very suspicious. Have your eyes always, you know, wide open and your ears, and listen to what's going on. We cannot trust this horrific dictator with anything. So those are the main points that I wanted to cover today. I think, obviously, I cannot take questions today. I cannot engage in conversation. So I look forward to my next visit so we can have a fruitful interaction. Thank you so much for your time. Remain vigilant and dedicated. And now with the ICC headline, please, sisters and brothers, let's redouble our effort in the struggle to liberate our country. A luta continua. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And of course, Professor meant, am I muted? No. Professor meant the MPLA. Just bear with me, please, because I had a note there. Yes, Professor meant MPLA, of course, which was a revolutionary movement for Angola, not Mozambique. Yeah. Okay. So that was Professor Limadi, of course, the publisher of Black Star News. Yes, I did see a few hands up. Dr. James, before we go into, yes, was it, I saw your hand before, but I don't know whether it was to do with what I was about to share. Please unmute, James.
No, Doctor, my hand was before Professor came in, but still I can say some things.
Apologies.
Not after, not on what Professor was saying, but I had made a tweet and I wanted to support it because I saw Chagulanyi yesterday in Ginger. And Doctors, if you are a planner, if you are in development, Chagulanyi was in Ginger, and the crowd that followed him, the young people, you know, if you are a planner, it worries you. It worries you. And I just made a tweet to that effect that the crowds that I see, that we see, Chagulanyi can't be a solution, or even Muhoozi. It requires Ugandans to think squarely, because you can't have your resources being taken by Chinese, Indians, or Koreans, and you have such a crowd. And I made a point that in the United States where we are, such crowds can't exist because they are either working or they're in school. And even if they are students, they still work. So you have these children who are just there. I mean, that crowd is sickening. It's worrying. Chagulanyi, it could look as a support for Chagulanyi. Yes, it is positive, it's a support. But what next? It worries anyone. So that was my, that's what I wanted to comment about, not what Professor has said. Thank you.
Thank you so much, James. Yes, Godfrey, please, if you come in.
Yeah, thanks very much, Dorcas. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning to everyone on the Zoom. Now, I like Dr. Madi always brings out things which I should really think about before, but he manages to make me think again. Dr. Mugeni is on the point as well, which I never thought of, because a big crowd of the young people means they have no jobs, they have nothing to do, they are crying out for help. And this is what we need to fight to get rid of the regime. So our young people have got meaningful jobs to do. In UK, I don't go because a certain politician is available. I don't. I just go when it's time to vote. I read what's going on. I vote who I like. But by and large, most things are planned by planners. Yeah, politicians or no politicians, the machinery is all automatic. Everything just moves in motion, regardless of which politician is available or which party is in power. But in Uganda, it's not. And the second thing, I stopped listening to Museveni possibly about 15 years ago. And at the moment, I can't stand it because I can't stand listening to a pedo of lies. It's unacceptable to me because my level of tolerance is that low that listening to lies is not one of them. I know I should be listening to hear what he has to say, but from what I hear from those speaking after his speech, there's nothing new, just blaming someone else for whatever is going on. And another thing, I will not listen to him because he's not the elected president. If he was elected truthfully, I listen to him to see what he has to say. But if someone wasn't elected, he would not bring any policies which are developmental or useful to the whole population. And that's why we see fat cuts within the NRM and those who follow him just for the money, while the country keeps borrowing. And a case in point, we have no elections supposedly for the local governments because there's no money. These elections are known well 5 years in advance, and by now they should have the money. But they had 37 billion given out to or whoever brother or son-in-law for some project. You had the 9 billion which went somewhere else. They go money, they keep coming for supplementary budgets, but there's not money for local elections. And this is not surprising in that he knows there's no support for him and in the local election, which is a problem for him. But I won't go into that. But those who can listen to him can analyze him, and I listen to the analysis. Thank you very much. Yeah, you were muted, Dorcas.
Thank you so much, Godfrey, for that. Thank you. And of course, James as well, thank you. I notice you are at work. Thank you so much for that. Yes, I am actually trying to fix a few things. I've put the poster, we are meant to craft tweets like you heard from Professor Alimadi. So I'm in the process of doing that. So whilst I do that, I'll ask Joseph to please come in at this point, pick the mic, whilst we will be having a moment of silence as well. Yeah. So Joseph, if you pick up the mic and then also the feedback on our comrades. Thank you so much. Please feel free to request for the mic. Let us discuss these new developments at the ICC. Thank you so much, Godfrey. Yes, Joseph.
Yeah, thank you, Dorcas. I was actually on the move, so that's why I'm on the phone.
Okay.
But I will try to, I listened in to Professor Alimadi's submission, and of course, William and was that Paul? We just spoke. Yes.
Yeah.
It was a very good presentation, Professor Alimadi's presentation, highlighting the ICC case and the need for us to continue engaging in tweeting and also in demonstration. So that was very, 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 very well put. So thank you so much for bringing him. Yes, well, I don't know where to start. Of course, the case of the ICC is very critical, and as Professor Alimadi pointed out, we need to kind of pivot off of that and use that information and the headlines to go to our representatives and treat it and use it at demonstrations. So we need more engagement, not less. And I think that was really much the information that Professor Alimadi was trying to convey to us. So we just need to get more engaged in our own activities. Just not let up. Don't let a dictator continue diverting attention from the atrocities. So other than that, I think I will comment more because again, as I said, I'm a bit engaged in something. I'm on the move. So I don't know if you want to take some hands or let me see if I can. I'm not on my phone. Let me see if I can go on my computer. Let me see. Let me see if I can see the hands. Any hands? I don't see any hands. But
No.
yeah. But in general, I have to say that there is just too much been happening, and we just need to ensure that this Icc case does not die because everyone knows. Well, not everyone knows, but anyway. There was a lady called Miriam Black-So, who is Uganda's ambassador to the Belgium, and I think also the envoy to The Hague. And she's killed. She killed a lot of cases that have been brought to the Icc, to the International Court of Justice and the International Criminal Court against Museveni. So we need to, as Professor Alimadi said, when we treat, make sure we tag the International Criminal Court, the prosecutor Karim Khan, and the European Union to just ensure that this case is pursued through the right channels, and also highlight the fact that we have this lady. You can tag her too. We can tag her too, just to know that we are exposing her complicity in the crimes that Museveni is committing, because she killed the case against Kano Herero for Kasese massacre. She threatened a lawyer, a Ugandan lawyer that had filed the case, in the Kasese massacre. So she's a very big operator. Museveni has a lot of people within the European Union, the US, all over the place. So that's why we need to kind of continue, as Professor Ahmed was suggesting, treating, highlighting these issues, this case, especially International Criminal Court, and ensure that action is taken, directly to the International Criminal Court and also through the US and the UK and the European Union parliaments, just continue pushing that for action. And as Professor Alimadi was highlighting, it's great when a paper like a New York Times prints that kind of headline. It gives a lot of mileage to continue exposing the regime, but also it may indicate that something is shifting in the profile. But then it's up to us to use that to further, because again, usually when we reach out to these people, sometimes they say, well, who's the source? Like if you have a credible paper like a Times printing something like that, that's really very important, because then you can say, yeah, even the New York Times printed about this, and these are the allegations and all that. So we need to use this opportunity to ensure that we seek the action that Museveni and his regime are isolated. Yes, so that's basically it. That's what I want to say for now. I've been so busy, I've not tweeted. There is a lot to tweet about, the International Criminal Court case and a couple of the other things that have happened in the past week. I don't know if anyone wants to share anything. Let me see if I can see their hands right now.
Thanks.
I'm not on.
Thanks, Joseph. Yeah, I was just carrying on for a minute as I share tribute on my screen. I hope my screen is being seen. This is a tribute to Brother Alex Oringa. I don't know if you had a word or so about him. Did you? Anyway, he was living in the UK. You being in the leadership, I don't know if, but if you knew
actually, I did not know him. Did he appear on this program at some point?
In the early days, yes.
I think I may have heard him, but yeah, I did not interact so much with him. But yeah, that was. Do you know the circumstances? Unfortunately, I didn't hear so much about what the circumstances were. If he had been sick, if it was a sudden death. But yes, every time we lose a comrade in a struggle of that caliber, it's a great loss. And of course, we've lost a lot of people. And in a struggle, I don't know if everyone knows about what we've lost. About 3 or 4 people in South Africa. People here that have been coordinators in South Africa, many of them have died mysterious deaths, very, very sudden death over the past year. So in some of these countries, especially in Africa, one has to be even extra careful because security. We have Museveni has a lot of agents and can do so much. But in this particular case, I don't know what the circumstances were. But perhaps you can talk to it because you were in the UK and you knew him better. I actually did not interact with him on a personal basis. But yes, it's a great loss, and our condolences to the family and to the fraternal membership for 2 years. And apparently got some money also for rent of the space. So,
okay. Kale, abyebyo abiwulidde bulungi General Museveni ne mutabani we. Ebigambo si birungi gye bali. Badde bakola ebikolwa bulijjo nga balowooza nti bakabi nnyo bali immune, ensi tebalaba, ensi tebalengera, tewali abalaba. Naye Kyagulanyi yatwala mpola omusango mu Koti Yensi Yona Icc ne bagamba ebyo byakatemba, ebyo byakiyita mu luggya, simanyi twali kye bagenda kukola. Kati nno batandise okuluma. Badde ajjayo ng'alaga ensi obujulizi ng'akasensi nti ye mukozi wa bikolobero, nti ye mutulugunyi, ye Ssaabatulugunyi, bati ne namuseetuuza ku nnyoge gwe teekawo abiyitandika okukaliriza amaaso kantunuza nkaliriza essaawa yonna. Embaga yandigwa n'ekidaala. Gwe beera steady, beera ready. Beera ku bulinzi ng'olindiridde kulanga weddiza obukulembeze bw'eggwanga, nga weddiza obuyinza bw'ensi yo. Bujja mu mikono gy'Abannakyemalira n'omutabani abatemu abatujju baakuno. Essaawa yonna emikono gyandibadde egiwetawo emerantungo ne bateekako empingu.